I'm making this video because I feel like a lot of people would be curious, like, what are the differences between the different ranks in Tekken, like, at the higher ranks, like between Tekken King to God of Destruction, like, what are the differences that people see, and how can you improve from one level to the next? So I guess this is kind of like a number one, like, what are these ranks and like why are people in them? And number two, how do you take steps to get out of each of these individual ranks? So I haven't played much ranked, to be honest. I have about like 500 games, but um, obviously, like I do pretty well in ranked. Um, and there's been things that I exploit at each rank that make me win. So obviously, I'm playing also a broken character, so I climb fast, but that's a topic for a different time. I just want to talk about what are the weaknesses and strengths that I saw at each rank, and how do you, as a player, like take those weaknesses and strengths and use it to improve your own game. Before I start, I think I need to start with how I feel like people get to Tekken King before I talk about the ranks above. And I think there's only two paths that you can take to get to Tekken King. And I've personified it kind of with Kazuya and Elisa. And by the way, if you're Tekken King Elisa or Tekken King Kazuya, you guys are both the same amount of good and the same amount of bad. I know I'm gonna get like 50 dislikes from that because of like Kazuya mains, but hey, I also play Kazuya. And I also think that if you're Tekken King with Kazuya and any other character, same skill. Anyways, the reason why I personified these two characters with the two methods to get to this rank is I would say you have one side, which is the backdasher, the person that's always trying to punish mistakes because people in blue ranks and below are always making mistakes. So this person's always like backdashing, maybe doing like jab into electric type stuff like that. Just always playing to exploit an opponent's mistakes, but they're not really that good at causing people to make mistakes. Um, an induced mistake is something like health sweep versus launch. Like, I would say a lot of people in Tekken King are not that follow this playstyle are turtly, so they're not enforcing mix-ups. They're more just focused on launching people for their mistakes. And on the other hand, you have like the Elisa player. And if you met a Tekken King Elisa player, then you know how they play. Like they're just spamming. Sorry, I don't know Elisa's moves. So I'm just gonna do what Kazuya's version of them. They're doing like evasive moves. They're doing power crushes. They're spamming their chainsaw stance. They're putting a lot of moves out there. A lot of like three hit strings to counter hit launch you on the third hit. This is what I call um, a very aggressive player. If this person's holding back, then the Elisa player's holding forward, kind of. Um, and both these play styles, after I've done a lot of thinking, I realized are super valid. Like, if you're a Tekken King Elisa just face rolls their controller, you understand something about the game that obviously people below your rank don't. Um, and that's the fact that Tekken 8 is about pressing buttons. And what I mean by that is, in this game, blocking is bad. Because, let me go set this Elisa to block. Um, Blocking is bad because you take chip damage. So, at the end of the day, if you're blocking, you're losing. You have to press. And the other important part about pressing is that you pressing discourages someone else from pressing. So, Kazuya's electric uh, usually comes out in about like 15 frames to 17 frames. That means that it's extremely scary to throw out moves in Kazuya's face because of electric. Similarly for Elisa, because she's throwing so many hitboxes out there and throwing so many strings out there, it acts as a sort of keep out. So I guess like if I had to summarize this section, holding back or holding forward, they're both valid strategies, but I never see anyone in Tekken King combine the both of them together. It goes without saying that combining the two of these is how you hit higher ranks. This video is more just about like how much of these skills do you need to hit that rank. So let's talk about Tekken King for example. Like in Tekken King, you only need one of these two things to get there. A combination of these things, by the way, not going to work to get you to Tekken King unless you deserve to be way higher than that. You're either if you're in Tekken King, you're either the most like ridiculous master in the world, or you don't press any buttons. And I've never seen anything that doesn't fit that profile. And it's up to you to decide like which one are you. And you have to figure out like, okay, if I'm the person holding back, then the way that I rank up is by understanding how to press forward. And if you're the person pressing all the time, then you got to understand, how do I not get blown up for throwing a bunch of hitboxes out there? So there's like two schools that diverge at Tekken King, and getting to God of Destruction means kind of combining the two of them together. I personally think Tekken Emperor to Tekken God, or like Tekken King to Tekken Emperor to Tekken God, like those three ranks, that's the hardest division in Tekken. The reason for that is because you never really know what you're going to run into. You're never going to know if there's going to be someone on the other side that just kills you for every mistake that you make, or if there's someone on the other side that you have to, like, they have a professional flowchart. Like when I fight against a Tekken King Elisa player, Tekken Emperor Zafina player, Tekken God Xiaoyu player, like I'm in genuine fear for my life because I have no idea what the hell they're gonna do. So I personally think this bracket is super hard, and the way that you like advance as a quote unquote fundamental Tekken player is understanding that throwing moves. Okay, if I throwing moves is how you stop people from doing bullshit. So like say this Elisa player is throwing like a whole bunch of moves. The way that you counter it as like a Mishima player, someone with great keep out like a Mishima, is by spamming a bunch of hitboxes onto them. So essentially if you want to be stronger in your defense, you have to have a very oppressive offense. So stuff like spamming jabs, spamming counter hit launchers, spamming heat engagers. If you're focused on holding back and punishing moves in Tekken King, you need to start focusing on just putting shit out there. So just some quick channel announcements. I have a Discord, and I think it's the best Discord in Tekken. I'm not sugarcoating it. I don't put much money or foster it, but it is, I think, the most active matchmaking Discord from like a Discord of this size. Like there's about 250 people in it. There's games happening every single day. I think like any given time, there's probably a lobby happening. There's people helping you out with VOD review for free, obviously, or just like a general chat where people are always talking about the game, share rank ups, stuff like that. So if you're looking for cool people to play the game with, go ahead and join. I'm not doing much to support it right now. I kind of want to, but it's just the people in there are so cool, and definitely consider joining. Also, please subscribe, and I have a Twitter. And the reason why I think it's so valid that Tekken King, Elisa, Zafina, whatever players that just like spam quote unquote gimmicks are still good players is because they understand this. They understand that the more that they attack, the less that they're in danger. And until someone starts blowing them up for it, it's an optimal strategy. So if you're in the Elisa school of thought, where you're just like spamming power crushes, you're just doing a bunch of moves, you have like crazy flow charts that work on all your friends, you need to start recognizing when to block and when to go for this aggression. Because stuff like power crushes, stuff like rage arts, stuff like 3-hit strings, they don't work against people that block. So the reason why this like Tekken King, Tekken Emperor area is such like a elo hell is because it's like a war between these hold backers and these hold forward players, and they can't really beat each other consistently. So I would say like the main important tip to kind of get from this rank to the next is figure out what you're not doing and do it. And any good player will be able to tell you exactly what it is if you send them a replay. And in the No Back Tekken Discord channel, we have people that review your VODs, get you some help, all for free. Just make sure to drop them a thank you after. But yeah, getting a VOD review from people that are higher skill than you at Tekken King will tell you exactly if you're a hold backer or a hold forwarder, and kind of getting that missing information will get you to the next level. Once you get to Tekken God, I feel like these Kazuya Lisa players begin to transform. And I feel like the transformation is like, I don't know, it's kind of like silly that I'm trying to personify it with characters, but it's the only way for me to kind of explain what I'm thinking. Like, when it comes to these like fundamental holdback players, they start to have a bit more aggression in their patterns. Like they do more plus frame mids, more checks, maybe they're throwing some risky heat engagers sometimes. The issue with people that graduated to Tekken God from like the holding back school of thought is that their plus frames were always used to sidestep. Um, or like whenever they're -1 or -3 or -4, they're always just sidestepping. And I don't, and there's issues with this that I'll tell you in a second. And on the other side, like if you've been mashing your way up, I think the only way to get from Tekken King to Tekken God as a masher, as like an aggressive player, is to understand some defense. So actually, like there's not much comments that I'm gonna have to say about like the Elisa player that got to Tekken God. Obviously, like they're still going to make huge mistakes and throw rounds because they're just spamming power crushes and like linear panic moves. But if you understand Tekken 8's offense, you're actually in a way better position to get good at the game than someone that only understands Tekken defense. And notice like the distinction I did. Tekken 8 offense versus Tekken defense. Uh, I would say Tekken 8 offense is so important, and the reason why fundamental players are being held back in Tekken God is because they're not utilizing this Tekken 8 offense with their Tekken defense. So the issue with not practicing like strong offense in this game, like focusing on sidestepping after plus frames rather like I think it's so bad if you just sidestep all the time between -3 to +3. I think it's completely useless, especially on your plus frames. And that's the reason for that is because it's so easy to get disrespected on your plus frames. And you must be thinking like, doesn't sidestepping during my plus frames reduce my chance of getting disrespected? And in theory, yes. But in practice, a lot of strong disrespect tools that people have will track sidestep or will not care about sidestep. So, for example, a lot of Lily players will do submissive heal, so +3 force crouch, and then sidestep right after. And I think the sequence makes no sense, personally, because every character has like a while standing move. I don't know what it would be here for Yoshi. I think like while standing 1. But every character has a while standing move that tracks one direction or the other. Um, and every character obviously has standing moves that track one direction or the other. So just spamming sidestep moves all the time, like spamming sidestep all the time, is just going to get you killed a lot. Because if someone understands that you're sidestepping, their mash is going to account for that. The smarter thing to do at the Tekken God level as a fundamental player is to frame trap all the time. So if you're +3 or +6 or whatever, don't step. Just throw out a move. And the reason for that is because online, your goal is to do the most obnoxious thing that you can. The thing that pushes the most damage the fastest is the thing that you're going to do. Because obviously that's how you win first to twos against people you don't know. So instead of sidestepping on your plus frames, what separates Tekken Gods from God of Destructions is using their frames. Sidestepping, in my opinion, should really only be done from 0 to -3. Like when you're on disadvantage to neutral, that's where sidestepping is really good. Because now it like switches up the rules of Tekken. Now like someone jabbing on their +1 is going to get launched. But stepping on your plus frames in Tekken 8, I really disagree with. I think that you should always press on your plus frames. That kind of goes with sidebar on why like Yoshimitsu is obviously super strong in this game because he makes it hard to use your plus frames. But that's a topic for a different time. In general, against most characters, you always want to use your plus frames. Because you always have an option that does damage that selects for someone's panic moves. So like if this Lily's doing submissive heal and I'm hop kicking back, obviously like a sidestep will catch that, but a mid will catch it as well. Or if I'm doing flash, actually submissive heal can't get hit by flash. So let me try to show off the situation. Yeah, the hitbox is way too big. Like the extended hitbox is way too big for flash. So what I'm trying to illustrate here is like you're always going to have an offensive option that deals with a defensive panic move that an opponent uses. Another example of that is like +5 from Heat Dash into Command Grab beats Rage Art. I guess I can try to show that off here if it doesn't take too long. It'll take too long. What Rage Art takes 8 frames to go through. Grabs are 12 frames. If you're +5 and you're doing, you expect the enemy to do a Rage Art or a Power Crush, grab will solve all your problems. So if I had to summarize this whole section up, it is like for the fundamental Tekken players that are trying to get to God of Destruction, you need to start using moves that do damage instead of movement on your plus frames. And that is what takes you to the next level. I would say the other thing that separates a Tekken God from a God of Destruction is their use of keep out. And I don't think keep out means, a lot of people think keep out means like running away, spamming KBD. Um, like if you're just like running away and like doing random things that like make you like literally run away from your opponent, I think you should play a different game. Like it's a dumb strategy. Anyways, what I really mean by keep out is spamming hitboxes in the mid range that are rewarding and prevent people from executing their game plan. These could be things like down forward 1, down forward 4, like some good keep up moves. But it could also be things that are unsafe, like mid-high strings, like launchers that are unsafe on block, like -13 buttons to. Uh, all of these are very valid. And that's why I don't think Mr. Tekken King Elisa is a bad player. They understand that in Tekken 8, you have to be advancing your game plan while preventing your opponent from playing their game. And doing that takes risks. Doing that means spamming mid-high strings, -13 strings, -15 launchers. All of that are prices that you pay to have the advantage of playing your own game. So if you're in ranked being like, oh, all this guy is doing is mashing, that's a good player. You should try to copy that. The difference between a Tekken God and a God of Destruction is that Tekken Gods generally play too safe. You need to be putting hitboxes out there. I was watching the Tekken World Tour champion Rangchu, the Kuma player. He's just spamming the bear launcher, which is a -15, like super unsafe launcher. He's just spamming it in neutral. The reason why that works in this game is because it shows the other person that at this range, you must respect me. And I think that's one thing that Tekken God players are not doing enough, is just enforcing this range. And if you are like Mr. Tekken King Elisa that got to this like Tekken God rank, all you need to do is just focus now on your fundamentals. Focus on your movement, because you're probably pressing too much. To be honest, I don't think that there's a big difference between TGS and God. I think it's just matchup knowledge, but I also think it comes with that aspect of playing too safe. Like, you need to be putting hitboxes out there in Tekken 8, and if you're not, you're playing the game wrong. And I see a lot of Tekken God Supremes are doing that plus frame into step flowchart. Like, this flowchart is so stupid. Stop doing this. I know I'm gonna get a bunch of hate for saying that, but if you really think about it, it's true. Sidestepping is something that you should do on minus frames as like a disrespect option, not as a way to select for like not a way to select for the opponent's defensive options in this game. Of course, there's always exceptions. There's always exceptions to everything. This is just my opinion on optimal first to two ranked play. In a first to 10, I think sidestepping on your plus frames is great, but in a first to two ranked format, it is really not optimal. The last side note that I'll make is like, what separates the God of Destructions from the professional players? And this is something that I'm really studying right now because I am a God of Destruction player. I could hit God of Destruction on most characters, I think. Um, but I'm not a professional player. I don't think I could beat. I don't even think I could take like a set off of like um, a tier like a North American or European pro, let alone like a Pakistani or Korean pro. The reason why these players are so strong is because they're focused on using big moves. Like if you watch someone like Ulsan, for example, and actually I'll pick Dragunov to demonstrate this. If you watch someone like Ulsan, he focuses on using the mathematically superior moves. What is a mathematically superior move? It's a move that is good on block and good on hit. So, sneak 4, Oopsies. Uh, so they minimize their usage of unrewarding pokes like down forward ones and down forward fours, and they maximize their usage of gigantic moves. If they see an opportunity to do a big move, they're going to use it. I think understanding that, like, minimization, maximization of big moves, like slow startup moves, is such a deep topic. It goes into movement, like it goes into realignment, it goes into making reads, it goes into movement, it goes into matchups. This topic is so deep, but I think that's the one thing that separates these crazy players from the rest. It's like, first of all, maximizing their usage of big moves, and also minimizing the opponent's usage of big moves with a high amount of hitboxes and movement. So there's kind of like two schools of thought here between like Ulsan, who's kind of really focused on throwing out this quarter circle forward four, versus someone like Arson Ash, who is using a lot of small pokes, but it prevents players from doing these big moves. So like, if you want to hit a professional level, you could be in either one of these schools where you're maximizing your usage of big moves or you're minimizing your opponent's usage of them. So Arson, if you watch him play, he's like always putting a hitbox out there and always like sidestepping in between his moves to make it really hard for someone to commit to something like this. Because if someone steps, like if Nina throws down forward 1-2 or steps or throws blind bomb power crush, all of these options will snuff Dragunov big moves. So I guess that's just kind of like a side note that I have. Like, understanding professional Tekken play, you can probably tell who's going to win by how many rewarding moves that they throw out. Like moves that are rewarding on block that they throw out.